Yeah, I'm good. 4-stroke flame out.
4-stroke flame out.
A motorcycle is whatever you want to make it. Turn it on, you can give yourself a real thrill.
So the things that I do to a used bike, I just do a once over. Obviously when I'm buying it, I look at the things like chain and sprocket. I start it up, run it through the gears, look at the radiator, make sure it's not all bent up, make sure it hasn't been crashed. I look at the front forks to see if it's been erased in the desert. Particularly on a bike like this that's kind of a desert racer. You can usually tell by looking at the front forks because they will be all gouged up with rock dings. Unless they were in a lower class, in which case they probably didn't get too much anyways, but I'm always pretty wary of getting a bike that's just a full-blown race bike. So it's one of the things I kind of look for. Also look at the rims, make sure they're straight. The main thing is just to listen for noises. Make sure everything sounds kosher and looks kosher. On this bike, before I took it out for the second ride, I changed the oil, adjusted the suspension, I checked the air filter, and checked all fluid levels. That would be the radiator fluid and the brake and clutch fluid. Make sure it's got all levels completely full, and then check tire pressure. This bike for some reason is showing good tire pressure. It's just these tires feel really hard. I don't know if they have super heavy duty tubes or what. It didn't even look like it had one ride on that air filter, but it did need an oil change. And this bike has different gearing than stock. And generally speaking, I have a pretty good idea of what a crappy bike looks like at this point. I've been screwed over enough times on Craigslist to know which bikes to get and which ones not to get. I got a 2006 RMZ 450 that was an absolute nightmare. I completely redid the whole bike and then I sold it because that 4-speed transmission sucks. It's way too much. You don't have nearly enough options as far as your gears. I would prefer a 450 has a 6-speed, but a 5-speed does pretty good. This has a 5-speed, which would shock a lot of people because it is a cross-country bike. But really, this is just an SX, is all this bike is. This bike is an SX with softer suspension settings and a kickstand and a 2.24 gallon gas tank. I could be wrong on that number. And I can tell already this bike will go forever on that gas. It only ate up about $1 worth of gas last time I rode it. To tell you guys some stories on, what bikes I've been screwed over on. And it's really only been one bike. And this bike was enough to teach me 1,000 lessons. So it's okay to only have one experience like this. But anyways, they posted this bike on Craigslist for really, really inexpensive. And I thought I was getting a great deal. It was a 2006 RMZ 450. And so I go to their house in the dead of winter time, unable to test ride it because there was so much snow. And so there it is sitting in their garage. It's got Metal Militia stickers all over it, black plastics. It looks like a real Frankenstein kind of bike. And I'm like, well, I can work with this, throw new plastics on it as long as it runs good and everything. So I go to kick it over, fires right up. runs perfect. And I'm like, all right, can't get too bad after that. So I hand over the money. But actually, there's one more thing. They said they didn't have the title in hand, but they applied for it and they would give it to me. And so I trusted them. Big mistake there. Never get a bike without a title. That is one of the biggest lessons. Doesn't matter how messed up a bike is. You can fix the bike. But if you don't have a title, it doesn't belong to you. This is getting slick. And I go out and ride it for the first time a few weeks later. Shifted up to second gear. All I hear is grinding. Second gear is blown. The transmission's blown. So I take the transmission apart. I don't even know how it ran with that stuff floating around in it without making noise. I'm like, holy crap, dude. Very dishonest seller. They picked a perfect time to sell the bike so that whoever bought it couldn't go out and test ride it. And during the process of taking it apart, we realized that everything is cross-threaded on the carburetor, and there's beer cans holding it together, pieces like one of the jets was threaded in with a beer can. Mother of God, that was violent. They used a beer can as a wedge to hold everything together. And then I go out and try to title it. What a nightmare. Anyways, that's my nightmare story for purchasing a bike. Pretty sweet.
His name is Racer Red. If he wasn't riding, he'd be in bed. He naps during the day. He rides his love in garage bays. Oh, he rides all night, full throttle all the time. Oh, he was born to ride. Red Racer, like, comment, and subscribe.